Fantastic. Welcome to Working Together to share the dynamic gospel in Europe. I'm so delighted to welcome you to our seminar. This seminar, we're going to be networking. It's an opportunity to get to know each other. We'll start with talking about our stories and various ways of how God has been experienced in our workplaces and our careers, so that you can interact and network. It's really about a network session. So let's start with our introduction. Andreas, can you briefly share what you have been involved?
Yes, I work in the financial industry in Norway. So I am the founder of an investment firm called Cairn Capital. So where we manage capital for families and organizations across Europe, but we focus on the Nordic stock market. So I've been working in the finance industry for the last 17 years. And yeah, that's basically my professional life. And I live here in Oslo, Norway. And I'm delighted to be here today.
And you're a Christian. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. We'll now turn to Cristian. Cristian, could you tell us a bit about what you're up to, what you're involved in?
Of course. Thank you, Kina. My name is Cristian Balaceanu. I'm 38 years old. I live in Romania, in Cluj-Napoca. I'm an engineer by profession. I'm an entrepreneur by accident, really. With my life, recruitment, and our goal is to match brilliant talent from Eastern Europe with innovative, purpose-driven companies from Western Europe. I have been living in Germany for quite a long time. Germany is my second home. I've been working 5 years in the big tech, and 2009 I've been going into entrepreneurship, and I'm happy to be here too.
Great, I can imagine. Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing more from you. But for now, we're going to turn to Paulina. Paulina, you tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely, I'll be happy to. My name is Paulina Crowell, and I'm currently based in Krakow, Poland. But actually, originally, I'm from Wisła, where our conference was supposed to happen. So I would have welcomed you to my hometown. Currently, I work as a head of people in operations at a company called No Fluff Jobs. So it's also related to recruitment and people. We are actually trying to change the standards of recruitment in IT to bring more transparency and more honesty and more respect into how the process happens. So the whole mission of the company is very closely related to what God's kingdom is also about. So I'm very pleased to be able to contribute to the growth of that company. And prior to working for No Fluff, I've been also involved in the financial industry as a financial advisor for funds focusing on emerging and frontier markets. So that's been also a very interesting journey. But as we all know, the financial industry is quite harsh when it comes to interactions, but also the trust levels are low. So being a Christian in this kind of society and environment was a challenge, but a good challenge to have. So I'm very happy to be here today and be able to share a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Fantastic, Paulina. We look forward so much. I'm sure the audience out there are looking forward to hearing more about that. So as we have our audience there, I would like also, I didn't actually thank the audience. I would like to thank the audience, people who are here, who've tuned in to be part of this seminar. We're just delighted that you are part of this. Now, let's dig deeper. Let's find out more. We go back to Andreas. Andreas, can you tell us, how do you cooperate? How have you incorporated and experience God in the harsh financial world. You are in the financial world. How have you done that?
Yeah, well, I was at a Christian conference a few years back, and I told one speaker there that I worked in a hedge fund, and he said, "Oh, that's the real Babylon." So that's where I'm coming from, and sometimes it really feels like that. And especially in the beginning of my career, I thought it was very hard to be a Christian in the finance industry. It felt such a huge contrast from Sunday to the rest of the week. But I've changed my view a bit on that, and I will tell you a little bit more about that. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about how I've seen this industry change. Because when I started in this industry 17 years ago, all focus was there was some focus about what was called social responsible investments, SRI. But that was really a niche of the market. And when you talked about social responsibility and so on, that was not a very popular topic. This has completely changed, especially the last 3 years. Everybody talks about that now. It has some new names. It's called environmental, social, and governance, ESG, and people talk about sustainability. And that's completely revolutionized the thinking in the finance industry, I would say, at least on the surface. And I think that's a really good development. And this is very much according to the Lausanne business as a mission thinking, where we talk about the 4 Ps: people, planet, profit, and purpose. And that was also the starting point for my firm. We want to have this as a core when we set up the company. And the reason we implemented it was that we thought that was the right thing to do. But now, the last few years, we've seen that the world has caught up on this, and what we thought was very radical is now been very popular the last few years, and is starting to become more mainstream. So I think there's been quite a bit of change in the financial industry. It can be cutthroat still, no doubt about that. So it's not like everything is nice, but it's more focused on responsibility. So that's a very good development. And also, I think when you look at the core of what is capital management, what we are doing, it is about trust. It's the building trust with your clients, and it's building trust with all the partners, your colleagues, and so on. So trust is essence. And how do you build trust? I think you build trust by having high standards of integrity, and this is brings you much closer to the church. And I think by following the biblical principles, being a Christian in this environment is actually a very good thing. It's sometimes when the darkness it's most darkness, the light shines much brighter. So to go on God's way and try to do that in the financial world, I think it's a really good thing, and you are not penalized by doing that. And God's principles really works in finance as the rest of the society. Of course, there are dangers in this industry. It's lots of money, so you have to be aware of that. And I think generosity is a good medicine for not being too obsessed with money and power, which is easy in such industries. So, and the last thing I want to say is that this is not all about principles. This is about a personal faith, and the way I take that into my life is by having a quiet time every morning, to reading the Bible and using prayer as part of both my private life and my professional life. So I include it everything in my prayers. So this personal time is very, very important for me. So that's some reflections on how it is to be a Christian in finance.
Andreas, thank you so much. That's very helpful. Could you just share with us, what do you find most challenging about your faith working in the financial industry?
I think you know, we work with money every day, all the day, and it's easy to become quite cynical. I think you see you kind of value everything in monetary terms, and you can be sometimes you have to be very, I don't think cynical is the right word, but it is you have to be aware of different agendas which different actors in this industry has. So you become maybe skeptical, and you try to be very analytical, which you should be, but it can go too far and you become a very cynical person. So to balance that analytical approach with being a warm person and you know, looking at the human side and being a good Christian, I find challenging.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Being Christ-like in the financial world, it's not as straightforward, but thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Yes, I will now switch on to Cristian. Cristian, what's your story? How has God been active in your case? Could you please share your story with us, Cristian?
Of course. My story with God in the marketplace is a journey of transformation. A transformation into Christ's likeness. And maybe you're familiar with David Brooks and his works, The Second Mountain. And he has an interesting approach describing how successful people live their lives. And he says that in the first half of their lives, these people are conquering a mountain. That's the first mountain. And it's the mountain of success, of financial success. It's the mountain of ambition. It's a mountain that you choose to climb. It is a mountain of your choice. But one day, maybe when you're 30 or mid 30, you reach the top and you look around and you realize, hey, I'm lonely here. And maybe this is not the mountain I want to be on. And maybe the life throws you off that mountain or you climb it down. But there is a time in the valley, and some call it midlife crisis. It doesn't have to be, but it usually is a time where you realize that there is more to life than success, and this is also my story. And then there's a second mountain that's calling you. It's a different kind of experience. It is pulling you towards it. You don't choose it. It is a calling, and it's a mountain of altruism, and you take up the burdens of others, and you live for others, and you live in relationships and in community. So this is also kind of my story with God in the marketplace. I have experienced success, unexpected success in financial terms. I said that I became an entrepreneur by accident, and it's true. I just wanted to have another job, and I ended up building the Romanian office for a German company, turned it from zero into multi-million-dollar consulting company. And I've done this for 8 years. And then burnout came, and then I sold my shares, and then I was there in the valley and realized that I was living for myself, and I was living very needs driven. I was driven by the fulfillment of my needs, security, recognition, acceptance, and belonging. And I was in that valley, and a major shift occurred when I met Christ again, I would say in a deeper way, and his love. And the current season I am in, it is a season of relationship. It is a season of love and of community. And I would say that the most intense relationship I develop is with Jesus Christ. And this is in my quiet time, I try to listen and to follow, and that's a challenge sometimes. Listening is easy, following is more difficult. I will give you just an example, a story of how God is talking to me in business. Sometimes he teaches me how to do sales. I'll do just sales with God. He tells me whom to call, or sometimes he will tell me how to redeploy assets. Or I'll give you just an example. I had a property in Romania that I wanted to sell, and that was in the rural area, between two cities. And I listed this property as related to one of these two cities, because I was thinking that city is more affluent, more people would be interested. And no one was calling for that property. And I prayed about it, and God said in prayer, said to me, turn it to the west. And I realized, okay, I should maybe list it as related to the other city in the west. And then the people started ringing, and the property was sold in a matter of months. So it's so practical with God. It is intimacy. It is walking with God. It's desires and needs and wishes and dreams with his, until we become one. But that's the difficult part that I'm still working on. I'm training hard to listen and follow. Yeah, and it is a lot of death to the old self, and in a way that the true self, the new self, can live.
Cristian, thank you so much. You talk a lot about intimacy with the Lord. You, as an entrepreneur, you're talking about encountering God. People might be listening or watching. What do you mean having this encounter? How did you come to this realization of seeking transformation? Because your story is one of transformation, but how did you know that you needed to change? Can you just tell us a bit more on that?
I know it's been a process, and it was a long process, and it involved some counseling with some wise people that were mentors to me, and reading good books on the topic of hearing God. And sometimes the local church is not the most helpful, but I do connect with a lot of people globally, also in the Lausanne movement. Some people I met at Lausanne conferences became my mentors, and they helped me, they prophesied over me, and they taught me how to do it for myself and for others. And step by step, I learned how to become intimate with Jesus and with God, and it's actually not far away from anybody. God's voice is inside you. Sometimes you feel like there is a concert of voices in your head, but actually listening, discerning to the voice of God shouldn't be that hard at all.
Thank you. Very, very excited. It'll be really good to hear more, because I think this is very important. As an entrepreneur, the idea of taking God in the marketplace, hearing God in the marketplace, it's not the common language. We don't hear that often, but I'm sure hopefully there'll be other opportunities. Maybe the audience would like to hear, how do I know that is God speaking? How did you know that was God speaking when you're selling your property?
It takes a little practice, and God has a specific accent just for you. It's like you learn it, and God develops a unique language with everybody, using unique words and images, and this accent I'm talking about. And yeah, I would like to tell you more about that later.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Cristian. I will now switch to Paulina. Paulina, you've worked closely with the finances as well, in the finance industry. Could you tell us your story in your workplace?
Absolutely. I would say that my story is one of learning to need God and need others, and my workplace has taught me that very well over the years. I come from a really great family, and my parents were great examples of integrity for me, so I kind of assumed many things, but then the world just hit me because I wasn't aware of all the challenges that happened in the working place. And what I found very early is that it's good to learn and prepare for what's to come. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have been involved in a program called Cross Current by Tim Vickers and IFA's Graduate Impact. That's been a great set of tools, very practical tools that have helped me over the years, especially beginning my career. As you mentioned, my career has started in finance. I've been working almost 10 years in a financial advisory company. And the challenges I saw there, I would have not experienced them in my family or at the church setting. And I also am happy to give you some examples to make it as practical as possible. So one, for example, is from my direct team. I had a team member, a girl who was very ambitious, and we both were kind of, competing who will do more, who will do more ambitious tasks. And there was one point where our team lead resigned. So naturally, in both of our heads, there was this question: who will be the successor? And I did have some aspirations, but I knew that she had more and larger. So and because there was some tension between us, I said, okay, maybe it's better if I kind of maintain the servant attitude from what I learned, and I was praying about it a lot, and there was this kind of tension also in me, because on the one hand I wanted it, on the other hand maybe it's better for the benefit of the team and the company to kind of have more of a peaceful transition. And so I gave up pretty much. I didn't fight for it. And in the end, actually, it was quite interesting because I was chosen as the next team lead, and it was quite kind of counterintuitive, because she was the more expressive one, the most kind of extroverted one, the louder one. But it was really great to see that God, even though it wasn't my intention to become a team lead if I kind of take a step back, but God did turn that into something that He thought will be better. So somebody taking kind of looking at it from a side could say maybe that was just coincidence. But because I know that there was a lot of prayer involved, and because I know that God has His plans, I knew that this was an experience of God, how God plays out different things and different scenarios. Another story that comes to mind is there was a guy in our team, in a kind of broader Krakow team, who started kind of becoming close friends with another girl, which of course is great. But we knew that he had a wife and a daughter. So both me and a very good friend of mine who was also a Christian, we spotted that completely separately, but we started chatting about it just to check whether that's actually the observation that we have. And indeed, quite separately, we had a very similar observation that it's coming kind of too close and maybe too dangerous for this guy and his family. So we chatted about it with our HR, whether we should do something about it or not, because of course there's this very fine line as to what level we should get involved in personal lives of our colleagues. And HR didn't say anything very strictly, but they kind of said maybe it's better to stay away from it and just leave that decision to that person. But both me and the friend of mine, we had quite a strong conviction that we should talk about it with this guy, because it is a very important issue. And so the friend of mine, who was a guy, talked to the other guy who is a guy, because so we thought it would be maybe best kind of to discuss it over a beer. And so they did. And even though this guy who kind of has started to have this affair didn't admit it right away, immediately after this conversation, his behavior changed. So it was clear that there was something in the air. And even now, it's probably 5 or 6 years afterward, he's having a very happy marriage and a great family. So this was this very interesting situation where we were not sure what to do, but because of the values that we have, because of God, and because of the peace that and the conviction that we both had with God, we thought, okay, this is maybe the time to raise it. So I would say that I'm not an entrepreneur myself, so I don't have like an entrepreneurship story, but even being an employee, there are many small aspects of experiencing God here and there in those situations, just like Cristian also mentioned, how God is and wants to be involved in those smaller things. I could share more stories, but I think maybe it's enough for now.
Fantastic. That's a lovely story. That's just amazing. If I may ask, did you eventually, the relationship with this other person, did you even know it came from you guys? How did it turn out? Did you know that it was coming from you, or that was just concealed?
Yeah, basically, it was my friend who confronted the other guy, and that's why he realized it was, something was going on, and it's observable. But what was great, because we also, of course, didn't know how he will react to us raising it, but actually our friendship grew even stronger. So there was no problem, and he never mentioned it anytime after, but he clearly appreciated it, seeing how his family kind of grew and was able to develop. So we were very grateful to God for giving us this kind of sense, and as Cristian mentioned, this special language that he gave us peace, and he told us almost what to do, even though it was maybe slightly against what the HR recommended.
Paulina, that must have taken a lot of courage.
Yes, I would say that it wasn't an obvious decision, but again, I think what was important to us was that there was two of us, so me and my friend, who had the same conviction. And that's why, maybe coming back to what I said at the very beginning, for me, being at work has been learning to appreciate other people, that I need other people to walk the walk. And God has given me this other friend who I actually got to know in my first company, and we're still very close friends, with whom we've been able to share and pray about our company and discuss different dilemmas and challenges. So yeah, I think that was very practical for me, to have somebody around with whom we can align our thoughts and our hearts.
Thank you. Pauline, just before I let you go, could you tell me, because you're working in a workplace, you say you're not an entrepreneur, but could you give us an example? Do you ever get opportunities to share your faith in this workplace? Have you had that opportunity? How easy is it?
That's a tough one for me, and I've been trying, but I admit that it's not easy, because on the one hand, I know that I'm not employed to witness or like I'm not paid to speak about God, so I need to be very careful about that. But also, I'm kind of a person who prefers not to kind of jump into somebody else's life too quickly. So I'm working on that, but there have been at least two situations that come to mind, and one specifically was related to a friend who's just lost her grandmother, and it was a situation that I learned because we worked next to each other, desk by desk. And of course, it was observable that she was feeling down, and we had a chance to have a very good and deep conversation where I prayed for her grandmother. She appreciated it, and that led to another meeting where we were able to talk some more about God and who He is for me and what that means in practical terms. So I see that because I'm around people, I can be. It's more natural to just relate to their everyday stories. And sometimes it's about strictly sharing the gospel, which happened that time. But other times, and more often in my case at least, is just bringing another standard and another set of values to conversations. And I think that in itself can bring a whole different perspective to life. For other people to understand there's something more, that there are other people who think differently. And yes, I've seen that happen quite a lot.
Pauline, thank you so much. It's just been a delight hearing stories from you, and we do look forward to network and to hear more from you as we engage with the audience. So for now, the recorded portion of the seminar is come to an end, but it's not the end of our meeting. In the second session, we'll tune into the live session. We would like to open it up to the audience and to hear perhaps from their stories how God has been present in their experience, knowing that the theme of Lausanne, they're saying in Europe, sharing the gospel, Europe is one of the most challenging places. So I'd love to hear more from the audience in our next session. Thank you.